This is my ranking of 2.5D Metroidvanias I've played, based purely on my personal experience. Each one is placed from masterpiece to trash, depending on how good the exploration, combat, and world design feel. Let's get straight into the list. Kong's survivor instinct caught my attention with the idea of exploring a city while giant titans battled around me. And at first, that sounded like a great setup for a Metroidvania. The ruined environments looked detailed, and seeing Kong appear in the background added some exciting moments. The problem was that most of my time was spent doing very basic tasks like pushing crates, opening paths, and dealing with combat that rarely changed. New abilities did little to make exploration more interesting, and the story never became a reason to keep moving forward. The escape sequences involving the Titans were easily the best parts, but they appeared too rarely to carry the whole experience. After a few hours, the adventure felt repetitive more than exciting. That places it in my mediocre tier. Mio Memories in Orbit stood out immediately because of its beautiful art style and the massive ship that served as the entire world. I enjoyed exploring the different districts since each area looked distinct and made me curious about what was hidden deeper inside. The combat was another strong point, with boss fights that demanded patience and learning enemy patterns instead of button mashing. As I unlocked more movement abilities, traversal became more satisfying, but some platforming challenges pushed difficulty a little too far. There were sections where repeating the same sequence again and again felt more tiring than rewarding. Even so, the atmosphere, music, world design, and sense of discovery kept me moving forward. The journey had frustrating moments, but the positives stayed with me much longer. That earns it a spot in my good tier. The Last Case of Benedict Fox had my attention with its dark atmosphere, strange world, and mystery-filled story. I enjoyed uncovering new areas, finding secrets, and learning more about the strange events surrounding Benedict and his family. The visual style also helped keep things interesting, with several locations looking memorable throughout the adventure. Unfortunately, the gameplay often got in its own way. Many puzzles felt overly complicated, and there were moments where I spent more time trying to figure out what the game wanted than actually progressing. Combat felt awkward, movement could be inconsistent, and the chase sequences became frustrating after repeated failures. Even with those issues, I still found enough to like in the world, exploration, and story to keep going until the end. That was enough to put it in my good tier. Shadow Complex Remastered was a game I enjoyed far more than I expected. The story was nothing special and never became a major reason to keep playing, but the exploration loop kept me engaged the whole way through. Finding new abilities, returning to older areas, and uncovering hidden paths captured the feeling I want from a Metroidvania. The combat was simple yet satisfying, especially when dealing with groups of enemies across the large military complex. While the movement could feel a little clunky at times, and some parts clearly showed their age, the core design remained strong. I always felt rewarded for searching every corner of the map, and progression stayed enjoyable throughout the adventure. Even with its flaws, the experience held up surprisingly well. That secures its place in my excellent tier. Tales of Kenzera was a game where the story stayed with me more than anything else. The journey through Kenzera was beautiful to look at, with vibrant environments, strong art direction, and a world that felt different from most games in the genre. What stayed with me most was the emotional narrative about grief and loss, which added real weight to everything I was doing. The combat was fast and enjoyable, especially switching between the sun and moon abilities to handle different enemies. Exploration and platforming were solid throughout, though they rarely reached the same highs as some of the best Metroidvanias. A few boss fights also felt easier than I expected. Even so, the combination of strong storytelling, satisfying action, and memorable atmosphere made this an experience I was glad to play. That earns a place in my great tier. GRIME took a little time before everything clicked, but once I understood its slower and more deliberate approach, I started appreciating what made it special. The combat rewarded patience instead of aggression, and learning enemy patterns became just as important as upgrading my character. I especially liked the absorb mechanic, which turned successful parries into both healing and progression. The world was strange, unsettling, and unlike anything else I played in the genre, constantly making me curious about what was waiting around the next corner. Exploration felt rewarding thanks to hidden paths, optional encounters, and useful upgrades scattered throughout the map. The story remained mysterious, but the atmosphere carried much of the experience. A few boss runs could be frustrating before unlocking shortcuts, yet that never overshadowed everything else the game did well. That secures a position in my excellent tier. HunterX kept me playing because of its combat options and the large collection of weapons I could experiment with throughout the adventure. Switching between different weapon types and magical abilities made battles feel varied, and several enemy designs were far more memorable than I expected. I also liked the steady progression of unlocking new powers and discovering hidden areas across the map. That said, the experience was not without issues. Movement could feel a little awkward, attacks sometimes lacked precision, and the save points were placed much farther apart than I would have liked. Losing progress after difficult encounters became frustrating on more than one occasion. The story barely left an impression, but the action, upgrades, and exploration were strong enough to keep me invested despite those problems. That earns its place in my great tier. Metroid Dread reminded me why this series helped define the entire genre in the first place. Every new ability opened exciting possibilities, and exploring the massive world never stopped feeling rewarding. The movement was incredibly smooth, making it easy to dash, slide, climb, and navigate through complex areas at high speed. I also loved how the game constantly challenged me with clever puzzles, hidden upgrades, and some of the toughest boss fights I have faced in a Metroidvania. Many encounters looked impossible at first, but learning patterns and finally winning felt incredibly satisfying. The Emmy sections added tension without taking away from the exploration, and the pacing stayed strong throughout the entire adventure. Between the world design, combat, movement, and memorable boss battles, this belongs in my masterpiece tier. F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch delivered exactly what I want from a Metroidvania. A huge interconnected world, rewarding exploration, and constant progression through new abilities. I had a great time uncovering hidden routes, finding upgrades, and revisiting older areas with new movement options that opened paths I could not reach before. Combat was another highlight, with the different weapons keeping battles fresh and making it fun to experiment with combos against the game's robotic enemies and bosses. The difficulty felt approachable without becoming boring, which made the adventure easy to stick with from beginning to end. The visuals could look repetitive in certain locations, and the technical issues occasionally got in the way, especially when moving quickly through the map. Even so, the strengths outweighed the problems. That earns it a place in my excellent tier. The Mobius Machine puts me on an alien planet after a spaceship crash, with the goal of surviving, exploring, and finding a way forward through a hostile world. Combat focuses on ranged weapons, letting me aim freely while fighting creatures spread across interconnected areas. New tools and movement upgrades gradually open blocked paths, including abilities that help with climbing, sliding, and reaching hidden locations. Exploration plays a major role, although I often spent long periods searching for map stations before fully understanding where I was supposed to go. The world encourages curiosity, but many optional discoveries felt less rewarding than I expected. Enemies can deal heavy damage, save points are sometimes far apart, and losing resources after death adds extra tension to every journey. I place this adventure in my great tier. Strider follows the legendary ninja Strider Hiryu as he fights through a futuristic city ruled by a powerful dictator using speed, acrobatics, and a deadly energy sword to cut through enemies. Movement is the heart of the experience, with wall climbing, ceiling traversal, sliding, and constant dashing making exploration feel fast and fluid. New abilities and sword upgrades gradually unlock fresh routes, hidden items, and stronger combat options, while different blade types help against specific enemies and barriers. I enjoyed how smoothly everything flowed as I moved across the interconnected map and battled mechanical soldiers, creatures, and bosses. Some boss encounters felt much tougher than the regular gameplay, and repeated environments made exploration less exciting at times. Even so, the action remained fun throughout. This adventure finds its place in my great tier. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night follows Miriam, a young woman with the ability to absorb demonic powers as she explores a massive castle filled with monsters, secrets, and dangerous bosses. Exploration is a huge part of the experience, with new movement abilities unlocking previously unreachable areas and gradually revealing more of the map. Combat offers a wide range of weapons from swords and guns to magical attacks, while collected demon shards provide dozens of unique abilities that can completely change how battles play out. I enjoyed experimenting with different builds and discovering powerful combinations that matched my preferred style. The castle constantly rewarded exploration with useful upgrades, equipment, and hidden paths, making progress feel satisfying. The story kept me moving forward as I uncovered the mystery behind the castle and its demonic threat. It goes into the excellent tier. Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree drops me into a dark fantasy world, where an inquisitor hunts dangerous creatures while uncovering mysteries tied to a spreading force called entropy. Combat mixes melee weapons, magic, dodge rolls, and character builds, with several classes and large skill trees allowing different approaches. I spent most of my time improving abilities, finding equipment, crafting upgrades, and experimenting with combinations that suited my playstyle. Exploration follows a Metroidvania structure, with movement tools like a grapple hook, double jump, and glide opening new paths across interconnected areas. The setting introduced interesting ideas, strange characters, and creepy locations, but the story relied on familiar twists. Enemy encounters and bosses began to feel repetitive after many hours, even though progression systems kept me engaged. This adventure settles into my good tier. Ori and the Will of the Wisps follows Ori on a journey through a vast fantasy world while searching for a lost friend and helping restore a land threatened by decay and darkness. Exploration constantly rewards curiosity, with interconnected regions full of secrets, side quests, hidden upgrades, and optional challenges. New movement abilities such as dashing, grappling, burrowing, and triple jumping gradually transform traversal into something incredibly fluid and fast. Combat is also expanded with a wide range of weapons, skills, and customizable spirit shards that let me shape my own approach to battles and exploration. I loved how every area felt unique, from dense forests to dark caverns, while the emotional story added weight to every step forward. It secures a place in my masterpiece tier. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown puts me in control of Sargon, a skilled warrior searching for a kidnapped prince across the mysterious lands of Mount Koth. The adventure blends fast platforming, challenging exploration, and stylish combat throughout a large map packed with secrets and hidden routes. New powers steadily expand how I move through the world, allowing me to dash through hazards, grapple across gaps, double jump over obstacles, and reach previously inaccessible locations. Battles rely on quick reactions, precise parries, aerial attacks, and powerful special abilities that make every encounter feel dynamic. I especially liked how the photo marker system helped me remember important locations and puzzles for later. While the story occasionally became confusing with its time-related twists, the movement, combat, level design, and exploration consistently impressed me. This one lands in my excellent tier. That's my ranking for the 2.5D Metroidvanias. I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching.